Good evening. I'm Antoine Raymond, survivor, advocate, TEDx speaker, and universal swing for the 5 U.S. companies of Hamilton. And it is my honor to be your host for the 35th Annual New York City Crime Victims Vigil.
Please welcome Reverend William Kritzman.
Welcome to West End Collegiate Church. I am the Reverend William Kritzman, Senior Minister of the Collegiate Church of the City of New York and pastor of this diverse and vibrant congregation here on the Upper West Side. I welcome you in the name of our God who welcomes all, whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey. It is once again our honor to be a sanctuary and house of prayer for this year's annual Crime Victims Vigil. Thank you for being with us. Please join with me in our prayer of invocation. Holy One of many names, we come together as your people knowing that our lives are both blessed and broken. We come to seek justice, knowing that your mercy is great. We link arms from wherever we are in solidarity with the rights of friends who have been the victims of heinous acts. We join our hearts and lean on each other, trusting in you, that hope may abound and peace may be real. Inspire us with your love this day, a love that knows no bounds, and in whose name we pray. Amen.
Please welcome your host, Antoine Ramon.
Thank you so much to Reverend Will Kritzman, the pastor of West End Collegiate Church, for opening the program with that beautiful invocation. I'm so thrilled to be your host this evening during our first virtual vigil. Tonight's theme is Seek Justice, Ensure Victims' Rights, Inspire Hope. That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, especially in our current social climate. Let us realize there is no one path to healing. There is no one perception of justice, and all of us deserve hope. We're all learning to live in a virtual world, some by choice, most by necessity. And it was in understanding the necessity for tonight's event that the Downstate Planning Committee decided to transform our original live ceremony into a virtual experience. Because now more than ever, we feel the urgency to honor those loved ones we lost to crime and violence, as well as honor those who survived and were harmed. This is a time of national trauma and a time to stand in solidarity with communities from all races in the fight for equality and unity. So many other organizations came together to make sure we could be here tonight. This event is co-sponsored by the New York State Attorney General's Office, the District Attorney's Offices of Manhattan, the Bronx, and the Downstate Coalition for Crime Victims of New York State, which is comprised of over 100 crime victim service organizations and advocacy programs in New York City's 5 boroughs, Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk, and Rockland counties. Now, I see so many people in the chat from all over. Please continue to let us know where you're watching from. I'd also like to let you know how you can be an active participant during the vigil tonight. Later in the evening, you will be able to submit the names of victims and survivors you want to honor during the designated candlelighting ceremony. Enough from me. I'll be with you throughout the evening. Let's move forward.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this year's annual Crime Victims Candlelight Vigil. For 35 years, this vigil has provided a healing space for survivors of crime, those who stand with them, and those remembering loved ones lost to crime. And we hope that it will continue to do so today. Though we cannot gather physically today as in years past, we're grateful that we can join together online to honor the strength of the survivor community. We are determined to continue demanding justice and providing hope to all those who need it, especially in these unprecedented times. Today's first ever virtual version of this event would not have been possible without our extraordinary partners. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge them and thank them for all their hard work and collaboration and their incredible ability to adapt to these circumstances. First, Reverend Kritzman and the congregation of the West End Collegiate Church, our longtime hosts of the vigil. We are so grateful for their continued support, warm welcome year after year, and we hope to return next year when it is safe for all of us to gather again. My colleagues at the New York Attorney General's Office and at the Bronx District Attorney's Office, whose involvement in this year's vigil is just one piece of their long-standing commitments to serving victims of crimes. Mildred Sylvie and my office's entire Witnesses Aid Services unit, who work every day to nurture the relationship between my office and the survivor community with trust, with compassion, and with the utmost professionalism. And last, but certainly not least, Susan Zanarios, without whom this event might never have ever happened. For more than 3 decades now, Susan has been a driving force in organizing this vigil, and her work at the Downstate Coalition for Crime Victims has supported and uplifted countless survivors and their loved ones, including many of the individuals involved here today. At my office, now more than ever, we are committed to protecting survivors of crime and investing in new ways to help them heal, to achieve justice, and to advocate for their right to feel safe and secure in a time of such uncertainty. We stand with all New Yorkers who are demanding change in the weeks following the killing of George Floyd. Black lives matter, and the use of excessive force by police in this country must end. Police violence is a crime, and our office is committed to advocating for victims of crime at the hands of police, just as we would any other victim. During the COVID-19 crisis, my office has been working proactively to serve victims and our greater community. We have adapted and learned how to continue achieving justice amid this new normal. We are reaching out and checking in on how victims are doing. We are offering counseling services and extending orders of protection whenever necessary. And we've been using our online presence to promote various resources for victims of domestic violence, sexual violence, and other crimes as we see their unique need for safe havens in the current situation. We are very proud that our Living Redemption Youth Opportunity Hub in West Harlem has transformed to fit the current needs of our city and is operating now as a food bank during the COVID-19 health crisis. This West Harlem hub is funded by the office's Criminal Justice Investment Initiative, or CJII, which was created with millions of dollars in forfeited funds from our investigations into major foreign banks. It is currently serving nearly 600 families in need at the hub. Over the next year, we continue building on our support for victims of violent crime, both in the community and in the courtroom. Through our CJII, we made a $2 million investment in a youth sex trafficking intervention program, which will serve young survivors and young people at high risk of commercial sexual exploitation through mentorship, through counseling, through intervention, and emergency services. And also through our CJII program, we announced an $8 million investment to create a Center for Trauma Innovation in Northern Manhattan. New York City is a global leader in trauma services and sciences, but there is a massive gap when it comes to serving survivors of crime who come from marginalized communities. The Center for Trauma Innovation will offer tailored, culturally appropriate services that focus on individuals who often do not seek traditional help. We'll also be training New York-based organizations who are looking to become trauma-informed. Now, we're honored to use funds forfeited in our investigations against major banks to help more New Yorkers heal. As a prosecutor, I know that the importance of empowering survivors cannot be overstated, and that their stories and their trauma remain with us and remind us of our ongoing obligation and commitment to make our streets and our homes and our society safer for all New Yorkers. And they are a full partner in every effort and any effort by police and prosecutors to make this a safer world. Now, one trial in particular this year showed us the power of victims' voices. And it was when 6 indescribably courageous women spoke their story to the world, despite great personal risk and pain. Harvey Weinstein was an immensely powerful man who sexually assaulted and raped them, and he used nothing less than an army of spies to keep them silent. But these women refused to be silent, and they were heard. Their words took down a predator and put Harvey Weinstein behind bars and gave hope to survivors of sexual violence all across the world. Of course, not every case that we prosecute is quite so high profile, but I believe that trial helped to educate our city and our community and our country about the pain and sacrifices that all crime survivors endure on their journeys toward healing and toward justice. That case showed the world what those of us gathered today already know, that crime survivors in our justice system are not just brave, they are heroic. Now, today, you will hear from a number of survivors and advocates, and I hope that you will find comfort in their words and in their stories as each of you continues on your own healing journey. But if you leave here today with just one takeaway, please let it be this, that you are not alone. And I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this special, truly unique ceremony. And now I'm pleased to introduce Shawanda Nziku, who will recite a poem entitled 4 Candles.
The 4 Candles poem. The 4 candles burned slowly. Their ambiance was so soft, you could hear them speak. The first candle said, I am peace, but these days, nobody wants to keep me lit. Then peace's flame slowly diminishes and goes out completely. The second candle said, I am faith, but these days, I am no longer indispensable. Then faith's flame slowly diminishes and goes out completely. Sadly, the third candle speaks. I am love, and I haven't the strength to stay lit any longer. People put me aside and don't understand my importance. They even forget to love those who are nearest to them. Waiting no longer, love goes out completely. Suddenly, a child enters the room and sees the 3 candles no longer burning. The child begins to cry. Why are you not burning? You're supposed to stay lit till the end. Then the 4th candle speaks gently to the child. Don't be afraid, for I am hope. And while I still burn, we can relight the other candles. With shining eyes, the child took the candle of hope and lit the other 3 candles. Never let the flame of hope go out of your life. With hope, no matter how bad things are, peace, faith, and love can shine brightly in your life. I sing because I am happy. And I sing because I am free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me.
They're co-chairs of the Downstate Coalition for Crime Victims. Please welcome Mary Haviland and Michael Pollenberg.
Good evening. My name is Mary Haviland. I'm the Executive Director of the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault, and I also co-chair the Downstate Coalition for Crime Victims. I'm sincerely honored to have been invited to join this first ever Virtual Crime Victims Vigil. I've been going to the vigil for many years, and I'm always very moved to tears by the program and the speakers, but also by looking around the audience and seeing crime victims and their families from all corners of the city. I also take in all of the members of the helping community, from police and prosecutors to counselors and case managers from dozens of agencies. The Vigil Committee of the Downstate Coalition for Crime Victims deserves a shout out for their efforts to make sure that this event is happening in 2020. Life is really not easy at the moment, but it is especially hard to be a crime victim during this time. In good times, loneliness and isolation are an enemy to someone who has been violated or physically harmed by another. In pandemic times, loneliness and isolation are forced on crime victims, and some are forced to shelter in place with someone who is harming them. I'm hoping that those who are participating in this event can see that the helping community citywide is making every effort to continue to assist those who have been touched by a tragic crime and to respond immediately to those who come forward. We hear from sexual assault survivors that the fear of illness, of economic hardship, and of uncertain futures is causing more anxiety and a reliving of past trauma. It's setting some people back in their healing process. I know from my own need to make extra efforts to manage my moods that this crisis is affecting all of us in ways unfelt before. And for those of you in the audience who are putting yourself in harm's way in order to assist victims of crime, we acknowledge the toll it is taking on you and recognize the incredible impact it's having on crime victims. Please reach out in safe ways to those who want to help and to your loved ones in order to make it through hard days. Give yourself the opportunity to safely do some of your favorite things. Let people's attempts at generosity and assistance reach the parts of you that need it. Thank you for joining tonight, and I hope it wasn't just because you ran out of Netflix shows. But seriously, know that things will improve, that we are a resilient group, and that we will be stronger on the other side of this. Take care.
Good evening. Welcome to the first virtual Crime Victims Candlelight Vigil. My name is Michael Pollenberg. I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs at Safe Horizon, the nation's largest nonprofit victim services organization. I'm also co-chair of the Downstate Coalition for Crime Victims, and I'm so happy to join our Vigil co-sponsors from the Manhattan and Bronx District Attorney's offices and the New York State Attorney General's office at this event this evening. In most years, we gather together on a Sunday afternoon to remember those we've lost and reinforce our commitment to ending violence and helping those who've been impacted. Amidst the songs, poetry, music, and testimonials, we mourn, we cry, we remember. And we also hold the embrace of those in the room with us, literally or figuratively. We leave each year a little drained, to be sure, but we also may feel energized by the support of our friends, our colleagues, or even those we haven't yet met, but understand what we're feeling. I'm not sure there's another event anywhere in New York City that packs as much emotion and love and strength into a 2-hour program as the annual Candlelight Vigil. Well, we may not be able to join hands with one another and sing songs of hope and healing in the beautiful West End Collegiate Church in Manhattan, but through the power of technology and the smarts of those who know how to harness it, we can spend this time together and feel each other's strength and support across our screens. The power of the victim rights movement remains strong, and as our field grows and matures, we recognize the urgent need for true justice in this country. That means enough shelter beds for those with nowhere to turn and enough legal services for those in need of court relief. It means budgets that reflect these needs and laws that dismantle barriers to safety for those impacted by violence and abuse. And yes, it means a criminal justice system that focuses less on punishing communities and more on building resiliency. I look forward to continuing this fight with my colleagues at the Downstate Coalition, Safe Horizon, and other partners. Finally, I want to thank everyone who helped put together this evening's event. There's an incredible team of coalition members from a wide range of agencies and organizations that pivoted from planning an in-person vigil to a virtual one, and I want to acknowledge all of their hard work to make this event possible. I also want to thank Mary Haviland, my fellow Downstate Coalition Chair from the New York City Alliance Against Sexual Assault, who brings energy and smarts to all of our important work. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
At 6 a.m. on August 28, 2009, I received a telephone call that would change my life forever. It was my daughter Nicole calling from Buffalo 4 days before the start of her senior year of college. She was in an emergency room, having been raped by an armed intruder in her off-campus housing. Her words exploded my world. I desperately needed to get to her and hug her. My wife, Annie, Michael, Nicole's longtime boyfriend, and I drove 6 hours to Buffalo. It was a nightmare. Arriving at the ER entrance, I let Annie and Mike out and then parked the car. When I entered the ER, a nurse took my hand to guide me. We made several turns, and then there she was, sitting on a gurney with a cut on her cheek. We hugged and cried. She was still my Nicole. The next day, after visiting police headquarters, Nicole wanted to visit the house. While there, Nicole announced that she would leave school and come home. Leaving Buffalo was horrible. It magnified the depth of Nicole's loss. She lost her identity, her independence, her sense of security and trust, and her senior year at school. I pulled over and wept. We came home and everything was different. My 21-year-old daughter, who had been fearless and had sung in jazz clubs in New York City, was now sleeping with her mother, and she was afraid of the world. I was thankful Nicole was alive and physically healthy. However, I realized I had to make a choice. It was either my anger and need for vengeance or my family, and most importantly, Nicole. I knew that my closure had nothing to do with the rapist. Nothing could undo what had been done. Time spent on him would be a cancer that would eat me alive. I chose to focus on giving Nicole the best life possible and wrapping my family in a bubble of love and healing. Annie, Nicole, and I received counseling near our home, and Ben, Nicole's younger brother, received counseling through his college, Temple University. When people spoke to us about vengeance or revenge, we told them that we were not about that. There was no embarrassment or shame. Nicole did nothing wrong. We would keep hugging, laughing, crying, attend counseling, and we would get through it. Nicole eventually moved into Manhattan with Mike, and in 2015, they got married. She is my hero and my shining light. She is successfully employed as an executive in a fashion-related business. Almost 11 years later now, Annie and I smile and hold hands. We responded to the crisis in a way that made sense to us. We feel lucky and blessed. I learned that you cannot change or run from yesterday. However, when something horrible happens in your life, you have a choice as to how you're going to respond. For me, it was about the promise of tomorrow. To help others, for 10 years, I volunteered as a speaker for a prison program that teaches inmates empathy and the impact of their actions. I also speak to groups of survivors. Each experience is profound, and I don't sit in judgment. I have dedicated my life to this work. My mantra is prevent one. While this is a women's rights issue, it's really about men and changing our behavior so that women can live as easily and comfortably and fearlessly as we do. I wish everyone a beautiful life and peace on your journey.
Greetings, light workers and light bearers. My name is Shawnee Renee Benton Gibson, and I am thrilled beyond measure to bring you a message of hope and light today. I know that we were originally scheduled to be in each other's company, listening to powerful testimonies, hearing folks who are in this work every day, talking about the triumphs of being able to serve and serve with integrity. I know that we would have been eating good food and fellowshipping with one another and listening to great music being sung and dances and all of that beautiful stuff. But if that was in the plan, we would be there. This is where we are right now. And so I seek the light in this right now moment. In the face of this darkness of COVID-19, we've learned that we have to be innovative. We have to generate from nothing sometimes. And so we innovated, and here we are watching this video, watching and hearing the testimonies from those who would have been in live space. I know that when I was in a relationship that was unhealthy and where there was volatility, I had to learn how to innovate. And sometimes I innovated from a space of low vibration. But once I awakened myself to my true calling, once I decided that I had enough and I moved in the direction of my own light and liberation, boy, that innovation manifested a life that was unrecognizable. I don't even remember fully the woman that I was, but I know that the woman that I am right now has the ability to leave the remnants of what it looks like to save yourself. So right now, as I think about COVID-19 and I think about the woman who is isolated and insulated in her home, who may be with the perpetrator of violence against her 24/7 and is trying to seek a way out, I'm reminded that if we keep seeking light, if we keep thinking about the possibility of a future, we can manifest it. So I'm leaving this message to let you know that I was in that dark space, that I was operating from a space of such low vibration that I thought, I'm not going to be able to live another day in this circumstance. And then one day, an opening came. And because I was open to light coming, I actually paid attention and took the next action and liberated myself. So I invite you right now, despite the darkness, despite what we're experiencing in reference to the levels of death and loss, there is light on the other side. We will not be here always. I wasn't there always. I was liberated. And now I get an opportunity to be an advocate, an activist, and a stand for those who are still in the dark and seeking a hand to pull them out into the light. Please choose to be that light worker and choose to reach back when the hand is extended. Be blessed and walk in the light. Peace.
Welcome back, your host, Antoine Ramon.
Thank you, Charlie, for reminding us that there is power and hope in the promise of tomorrow. And to Shani for being an example of innovation and light. Now I'd like to tell you a bit about our next performance by the Stonewall Chorale and West End Collegiate Choir. The Stonewall Chorale is the nation's first gay and lesbian chorus, with its origins dating back to 1979. What you may not know is both choirs are music directed by Cynthia Powell, and though this is their first collaboration, this year marks more than 25 years of participation in the vigil by the West End Collegiate Choir. And to share a little digital magic with you, the following was recorded entirely remotely, with over 50 choir members sending in their individual home recordings. That's a testament to the importance of tonight for all of us. With Hassan Anderson on oboe, Kobe Malkin on violin, Eric Cedric on piano, with music direction by Cynthia and virtual orchestration by Jeremy Lyons Robbins, please enjoy How Can I Keep Singing?
My name is Trinell Gabay, and I am a survivor of gun violence. On September 7th, 2015, my husband Cary Gabe left our home and never returned. He went to partake in a street festival called Juve to celebrate culture, camaraderie, and community. As two gang rivals began to have a shootout, Cary was caught between the crossfire and a bullet struck him in the head. My husband fought for 9 days in the hospital, and the darkest day of my life was having to make the decision to take my husband off of life support because he was pronounced brain dead. Cary Gabe was assistant counsel to our governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. What is ironic is Cary drafted legislation on the SAFE Act, which set precedent as one of the toughest gun laws in 2013, and yet his bright light was extinguished by guns. My husband grew up in poverty in the projects in the Bronx. Cary was a visionary, and at a very young age, he knew that he wanted to be a lawyer. And with hard work, dedication, and grit, he graduated cum laude from Harvard University and was the first Black president of the Undergraduate Council. He then proceeded to get his law degree from Harvard Law School. Cary could have worked for any prestigious law firm, making exponential amounts of money in the private sector, but instead, he decided to work in public service for the state of New York. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance are all stages of grief when you lose someone traumatic. MLK said it so well. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light could do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love could do that. The same element that contributed to taking my husband's life and countless others can diminish an outlook towards hope. In 2016, I founded the Cary Gabe Foundation for the imperative reasons of keeping my husband's legacy alive, as well as to contribute to the youth by giving them the tools to succeed and excel in life before they become part and parcel of the scourge of gun violence that is happening every day in communities. To learn more about the Cary Gabe Foundation, you can go to www.carygabefoundation.org and please donate. Something that resonates in my heart is legacy and love. Cary and I was desirous to start a family, and when his life was taken, so was our dream. In 2017, I did IVF, and my prayer request was a healthy baby boy. In June of 2018, my prayer was answered. God heard my heart cry as I gave birth to a healthy baby boy, named after his father. His father was Cary Watson Gabe, and our son is Cary Wyatt Gabe. As gun violence continues to plague our country, even through this unprecedented time of COVID-19, we are actually losing more souls to the pestilence of gun violence. Now more than ever, we need to hold the leadership of the states and the union accountable in these precarious times. We have to be the change that we want to see in the world, and it starts with each and every one of us. Let us never stop dreaming as we walk by faith, always flowing from a sincere place of hope. Thank you.
Please welcome the Honorable Letitia James.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me in this virtual Candlelight Vigil for National Crime Victims' Rights Week. This year marks the 35th anniversary of the New York Crime Victims Candlelight Vigil, and I'm proud to say that my office has worked in collaboration with the Downstate Coalition to organize this event from the start. Due to current restrictions on public gatherings, we're not able to come together as we traditionally would. However, we can still pay our tributes to victims of crime and honor their lives virtually. This week and every week, we take the opportunity to remember crime victims and stand by survivors. It is more important now than ever that victims feel supported and have access to resources. Despite the pandemic, my office remains committed to seeking justice on behalf of victims and their families. We continue to investigate and prosecute crimes and provide necessary assistance. I would like to thank all of the elected officials, community leaders, and agencies across the state for finding new and creative ways to promote awareness for National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Your efforts have not gone unnoticed. And while this virus has slowed down many aspects of our daily lives in our communities, it hasn't slowed down the pain that so many of us still experience. In fact, for many, this crisis only exasperates this trauma. So to crime victims and their loved ones, we hear you, we see you, we stand with you, and we are here to continue offering you the support and resources you need. Thank you, and God bless you.
Watch us where we go, and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe. La luce che tu dai, I pray we'll find your light, nel cuore resterà, and hold it in our heart, a ricordarci che when the stars go out each night, l'eterna stella sei. Nella mia preghiera, let this be our prayer. Quanta fede c'è when shadows fill our day. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe. Sogniamo il mondo senza violenza, un mondo di giustizia e di speranza. Only your simbolo di pace, di fraternità. We ask that life become and watch us from above. We hope each soul will find another soul to love. Let this be our prayer. Let this be our prayer. Just like every child. Just like every child needs to find a place. Guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe. And laugh at again. Higher Gesù in noi. Sento che ci salve.
Once again, Antoine Ramon.
Let's all just take a moment to let that captivating and dynamic performance by Lisa Barone and Joseph Sachi resonate within us. Wow. Thank you both for the gifts that are your voices. And additional thank yous to Trinell Gabay and Attorney General Letitia James. We're now at the portion of the evening where you, the viewer, will be able to participate in the candlelight ceremony. As I mentioned before, you may enter in the chat the names of victims and survivors you would like to honor. I will now read a poem by Julie Jetta titled Eternal Flame. The time we shared was so beautiful. It brightened my world like a candle in a dark room. It was ended all too soon, that candle was torn out of my hands. The flame of your life was cruelly snuffed out, just as it burned the brightest. Until my eyes adjusted to the dark, I was stunned. But then I realized I was alone in the darkness. I cried. For the longest time, my heart was filled with anger, loneliness, and fear. How could I find my way without your light to guide me? So I sat alone for a while, overwhelmed by the darkness, until I looked inside me, and there I saw your candle, burning as brightly as ever. And from its flame, I lit a new candle and found my way out of the darkness. Now I know I will never be lost. Your light shines inside me forever.
This is the candle of healing and renewal. My name is Barbara Bethea. This candle represents the process of healing and renewal of crime victims nurtured by those involved in guiding, strengthening, and empowering them through counseling, advocacy, legal, and support services. This candle was lit in memory of my sister Marie.
This candle of support is in honor of my mom, Chaplain Carmen Torres Gonzalez. This candle represents the strength and power that we receive through our family, our friends, our counselors, our law enforcement, and our advocates working for crime victims' rights. Thank you.
Candle of Advocacy, Madeline Brame. This candle represents the efforts of crime victim advocates, volunteers, and all those who work to assure that victims are treated fairly, with compassion, dignity, and respect, and to assure that all victims have access to justice. Sergeant Hassan Sharif Korea, Rayvon Quadir Sadu.
This candle represents the strength and power of resiliency. Victims of violence are courageous in confronting their fears and pain and in seeking to overcome overwhelming obstacles to become whole again.
Esta vela representa la fuerza y el poder de la resiliencia. Las víctimas de la violencia son valientes al enfrentar sus miedos y dolor y al tratar de superar obstáculos abrumadores para volver a reintegrarse de nuevo.
This is a memory of our beloved EMT Yadira Arroyo.
Esto es en memoria de nuestra queridísima EMT Yadira Arroyo.
The candle of hope. This candle represents the hope for a safer and better tomorrow. For all people, especially those whose lives have been affected by violence and those who have suffered the loss of loved ones.
My name is Carmen Torres. I am a member of Safe Streets. I'm lighting a candle of prevention. This candle represents our vision that through education, compassion, treatment, and respect, that our future we can and will become a violence-free people. My son, Luis Garcia, age 33, was killed in traffic violence on September 24, 2019.
The candle of remembrance. Remembrance is more than a recollection of the horrors and shards of the past that cut. It is a celebration that can be replayed at any time to show us why we live, love, and hope, why we dare to dream that we can be whole again because once we were. Remembrance is honor to the fallen, whether that be part of ourselves or a loved one taken too soon. A reminder that there is a moment where love prevailed. And as long as we remember, that mind's light will stand between compassionate humanity and the senseless acts that have wounded one and many and all.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored to give the closing remarks for yet another moving and inspiring annual New York City Crime Victims Vigil. This is a milestone event, and not only because we're doing it remotely, unable to gather together in the beautiful church and embrace each other like we used to, but because this is the 35th year we have been holding this special event to honor crime victims and survivors and the advocates and therapists who champion them. Thank you to all our vigil partners, the Downstate Coalition, New York State Attorney General Letitia James, and Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance. It has never been more important to remember, celebrate, and serve crime victims as we are engulfed in the COVID-19 crisis. We were unable to hold this vigil or show public expressions of support this year, but we commemorate this annual event by doing what we've always done and continue to do: assist crime victims and their loved ones. We serve all victims, whether they are harmed by a stranger on the street, someone in their home, or even if they suffered police brutality. In recent weeks, in addition to the COVID-19 crisis, we are all grappling with the fallout from police brutality and the resulting protests, social unrest, and concerns about racial injustice. While watching the killing of George Floyd and others in such a public way is so painful, and it just re-traumatizes all surviving families. But throughout all of it, our Crime Victims Assistance Unit did the research to gather more contacts and resources to get services to those in need with so many agencies closed. Throughout the pandemic, our crime victim staff is working tirelessly, conducting numerous therapy sessions remotely, taking on scores of new clients, and following up with hundreds of past victims. The crucial part is to be there, to keep in touch, to meet people where they are, no matter the medium we use. This year's vigil theme, Seek Justice, Ensure Victims' Rights, Inspire Hope, is what my office strives for every day. National Crime Victims' Rights Week was in April, but I want to remind victims and survivors in the Bronx that they are not alone, that we are dedicated and committed to working on their behalf every day, and especially during these turbulent times. Thanks to the courageous survivors, such as the family of EMT Yadira Arroyo, whose family you saw lighting the candle of resilience. They have come to every court date for more than 3 years, unwavering in their fight for justice, for the remarkable hero that Yadira was to this city before she was murdered. And to the family of Carmen Torres Gonzalez, who was murdered. You saw them lighting the candle of support. They represent what this is all about, more than words can ever say. I'm now proud to introduce one of my assistant DAs, Jennifer Gray, to close out this remarkable ceremony by singing what has become a victim's anthem, Rise Up.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find that fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move mountains. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up, rise like the waves. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times. the silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it is getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying. I promise we'll bring the world to its feet and move mountains, bring it to its feet and move mountains. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again for you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other, and we will rise, we will rise, we will rise, oh, 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 we will rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times. I'll rise up, rise like the waves. Rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times for you. Yes, you. For you. For you. Yeah.
It is an extraordinary time for all of us, which is why the Downstate Coalition is here to help and offer support free of charge. That includes, but is not limited to, survivors of interpersonal, sexual, and domestic violence, hate crimes, and more. Our work includes legal assistance, counseling, and a wide array of advocacy and services no matter when the violence occurred. Thank you all for being here tonight and offering healing, even as you live with pain. And if you wish to extend that healing beyond tonight, please share this video with someone who needs it. You may also visit the Downstate Coalition website for a list of programs that are available. I have lived through the burden and pain of violence. And in the moments when I felt the most alone, someone in my life was the light I needed to find my way out of darkness. Please know that you have support in this world, even if you don't see it. It can come from a friend, a loved one, or an organization whose sole purpose is to be that light in your darkness. You are supported. Thank you and good night.
love.